In the photos, the apartment looked normal. 6 tatami mats for the main room. A tiny separate kitchen. Bathroom unit. Narrow hallway. Nothing special, except the rent. "Why is it this cheap?" my mother asked over the phone. "Tokyo doesn't give you bargains for fun." "Old building," I said. "No autolock." "Probably noisy." "And the listing says for those who don't mind an unusual floor plan." "Unusual how?" she demanded. I scrolled back to the description. "It just says weird layout, recommended for those who don't mind," I said. "Probably just a slightly narrow room or diagonal wall or something. You know TikTok, people love that stuff." She made a doubtful noise. "Tell the agent you're taking a video during the viewing," she said. "If they say no, don't rent it. And ask if it's a. Promise me." Okay, I said. "I'll ask." I didn't. Not because I forgot. Because I was afraid of what the answer might be. The agent met me at the station, a young man in a too-tight suit with a smile that never reached his eyes. "First time living alone?" he asked as we walked. "Second," I said. "My old place's building is getting demolished. Redevelopment." "Ah, there's a lot of that lately," he said. "This area, though, the buildings are vintage." That was one way to put it. The apartment building was a 4-story concrete block from the late Showa era, painted a beige that had once been white. Balconies with rust along the railings. Mailboxes with faded nameplates. No autolock, just a glass door with a heavy handle. "Lots of long-term residents," the agent said. "Quiet. Safe. Close to the station. And the rent is very good for a one-room this size." We took the stairs to the 3rd floor. The corridor bent in an L shape, then again. I noticed it, but only in the way you notice a fold in a piece of paper. Our unit was 303. The agent opened the door and stepped aside, letting me enter first. It smelled of cleaning spray and something faint underneath, dust, maybe, or air that hadn't moved in a while. The layout really was odd. The entrance opened onto a surprisingly long, narrow corridor. On the left, immediately, was the bathroom unit, on the right, the tiny kitchen. That part was standard. But after the kitchen, the corridor kept going. It took a sharp right turn, then a left, before finally opening into the main room. From the outside, the building had looked like a simple rectangle. Inside, my apartment's hallway felt like someone had folded that rectangle into an unexpected shape. "Doesn't it feel long?" I asked, glancing back. The agent shrugged, still smiling. "Some people like having the bedroom away from the entrance," he said. "More privacy. And you don't hear the corridor noise as much." He slid open the balcony door. The main room had a proper window and a small balcony, facing the narrow street and the building opposite. Light leaked in. Not much, but enough. "The floor was redone last year," he said. "Walls painted. AC cleaned. Very fresh atmosphere, right?" I nodded slowly. It was fresh. Too fresh. Nothing personal remained. No lingering marks where posters had been taped. No small dents from furniture. No discoloration from rugs. It felt like a room in a furniture showroom, an idea of living, not a place where anyone had actually lived. "Is it a?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. His smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. Then he laughed. "Oh, you young people," he said. "Always asking about that these days." "No, nothing like that here. The landlord is very upfront. We would have to tell you." He said it fast. Too fast. I walked the length of the corridor again. It felt longer walking back than it had walking in. Like the apartment stretched when you weren't looking. "How many units on this floor?" I asked. 6, he said. 301 to 306. "Has this one been empty long?" I asked. He glanced at his tablet. "Some months," he said. The layout is unique. Some people don't like hallways. He looked up. But the rent is low because of that, he added quickly. You won't find this price anywhere else within 10 minutes of the station. He was right. I thought of my old place, its paper-thin walls, the looming deadline to move out. I thought of my salary, my dwindling savings. I thought, very briefly, of my mother's voice telling me to be careful. Then I signed. The first week was almost normal. I worked. I unpacked. I learned which floorboard creaked and which tap needed coaxing. The long hallway became just another part of my daily route from the front door to the bed. I told my mother the layout was a little quirky, but fine. At night, though, when I came home late and turned on the entrance light, the corridor looked different. Narrower. Longer. The shadows pooled in the corners where it turned. The bathroom door, when half open, made you walk slightly sideways to pass it. The kitchen, tucked into its right-angle nook, felt like a separate world, cut off from the main room. Twice, half asleep, I turned left instead of right coming out of the bathroom and walked straight into the wall, convinced there should be another stretch of corridor there. The third time it happened, I laughed at myself. You're tired, I said out loud. It's just unfamiliar. The apartment creaked in response. Old pipes. Wood. Normal. The first sound came on a Tuesday night. I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone with the room light off, the blue glow painting everything in soft neon. From somewhere in the apartment, a door creaked open. I froze. The building was old. Doors creak. Neighbors move. Plumbing groans. All normal. But this sound came from inside my unit. Specific. Familiar. The sound of a sliding door on slightly worn rails. The only sliding door I had was the one between the main room and the balcony. It was shut. I could see its outline in the faint streetlight. I held my breath. Footsteps followed. Soft. Dragging. They came down the hallway slowly, as if whoever it was knew the turns intimately and didn't need light. My heart hammered. I groped for something heavy. My hand closed on my phone. As a weapon, it was useless. As a light, it was everything. I flicked on the flashlight and pointed it toward the corridor entrance. Empty. The footsteps stopped. The apartment hummed. Fridge, AC, distant traffic. I got up, cursing my own nerves, and walked the corridor. Bathroom, empty. Kitchen, empty. Entrance, door still locked, chain on. I checked the time. 2:03 a.m. Because of course it was. I went back to bed and left the hallway light on. The sound didn't repeat that night. On Thursday, I met my neighbor in 302. It was raining. I struggled up the stairs with a dripping umbrella and a bag of convenience store food. Someone came out of 302 at the same time, a middle-aged woman in a faded cardigan and house slippers. We both did the little corridor dance of trying not to bump into each other. "Excuse me," she said, then paused. "You're new in 303?" she asked. I nodded. "Just moved in," I said. "I'm Saito." She gave a small bow. "I'm Tamura," she said. "Welcome. If anyone bothers you, tell the landlord." "Bothers?" I echoed. "Like who?" She hesitated. Her eyes flicked down the corridor toward my door, then to the far end where it bent out of sight. "The walls are thin," she said finally. "Sounds travel in strange ways in this building. Be careful not to mistake where they come from." It was an odd way to put it. Before I could ask what she meant, she added, "And don't leave your door open. Even just a little. Even during the day. The layout pulls." "The layout pulls?" I repeated, half laughing. She gave me a look that made the hairs on my arms stand up. "You'll see," she said. Then she shuffled off toward the stairs. That night, I dreamed I was standing in the corridor, and every door, bathroom, closet, entrance, was open. The hallway didn't end where it should. It branched, splitting into more and more corridors, some sloping up, some down. Rooms open on either side, crammed with furniture that didn't belong to me. Faces peered from the doorways. Not monstrous. Just wrong. Their eyes didn't quite track my movement. Their lips moved, but the words slid away, like speech heard underwater. In the dream, I walked faster, trying to find my own room again. The hall turned left, then right, then doubled back on itself. My feet ached. My phone said I'd walked 3 kilometers, then 5, then 9. All inside my own apartment. When I woke, my step counter showed 18,000 steps. I hadn't left the bed. A few days later, while hunting for a place to store a pan I rarely used, I discovered the rolled-up paper in the back of a kitchen cabinet. It was thicker than I expected. Not just a single sheet. A small tube of parchment and thin tracing paper, bound with a rubber band that disintegrated at my touch. Curiosity overrode the small voice in my head that said leave it. I spread the sheets on the kitchen floor. Floor plans. Not just for my unit. For the whole building. The first page was a standard blueprint, 4 floors, 6 units per floor, stairwell, corridors, balconies. The second page was different. Someone had hand-drawn extensive notes in the margins. Extra lines. Arrows. Rooms added in red pen that weren't on the official plan. Next to 303, a faint square had been penciled in where my hallway bent. A small, windowless room. Not labeled closet or storage. Labeled, in neat kanji. Surplus room. Next to 301, another extra space. Temporary guest. Next to 304, owner's private. Lines drawn between these extra rooms and the stairwell, and then from the stairwell to some other part of the building entirely, in faint dotted paths. The more I looked, the less my building looked like a normal rectangle on paper and more like a folded piece of origami, layers stacked and connected in ways that made my eyes hurt. Someone had tried to erase parts of the red pen notes. But the impressions remained. On the last sheet, there was a key. Not the kind that opens doors. The kind that explains symbols. Circles for official rooms. Squares for constructed but unregistered spaces. Triangles for shared zones. Next to shared zones, more handwriting. Active at night only. My phone buzzed. I jumped. A message from my mother. How is it? Getting used to the new place? I looked at the plans on the floor. At the loops of hallway that didn't exist by day. At the little extra room penciled in right where my corridor felt longer than it should. I typed back. It's okay. Feels a little strange, but I think I'll get used to it. I didn't send her a photo. Somehow that felt like it would make it more real. I rolled up the plans again and stuffed them back into the cabinet. That night, the footsteps in the hallway were louder. And they stopped right outside my bedroom door. You learn the sounds of your building. The couple who fights in 201. The student who comes home late in 305. The delivery people. After a while, you can tell who is who by the rhythm of their walking. These footsteps weren't any of those. They were too many. Too overlapping. Sometimes light, like a child's. Sometimes heavy, like someone carrying something. Sometimes barefoot. Sometimes in shoes that tapped a pattern. And they didn't come from the corridor outside my entrance door. They came from the hallway inside my apartment. I started sleeping with the main room door shut. It didn't help. The sound seemed to move around the room. Once, from the balcony side. Another time, from behind the wall where the kitchen should be. The weirdest was when I heard footsteps on both sides of my bed at once, like people walking past each other in a crowded station, politely not touching. I bought earplugs. The first night I wore them, I woke up convinced someone was standing over me. The air above my face felt thick. I took the earplugs out. Silence. Too complete. City nights are never truly silent. There's always a distant car, a neighbor's TV, the hum of a vending machine. Here, there was nothing. As if the building had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. Enough, I whispered. I have work tomorrow. Please. I wasn't sure who I was talking to. The layout. The building. The stupid erased surplus room. The silence held for a long moment. Then, faintly, from the hallway, a reply. Not words. A sigh. Tired. Crowded. Like an elevator full of people that had been stuck between floors for years. I started leaving earlier for work just to get out of the apartment. On the stairs, I sometimes ran into Tamura from 302. She looked more tired than before. Old building, she said when I mentioned the noises. It collects things. What kind of things? I asked. She gave me a long, measuring look. The landlord's father built this place, she said. After the war. When there were too many people and not enough houses. People slept in corridors back then. In closets. Any space was better than none. She gestured vaguely at the walls. He was clever, she went on. He built in extra. Little pieces of space. Places you didn't declare to the city. Extra storage. Extra beds. Extra people. Is that even legal? I asked. She laughed. Legal came later, she said. People just needed somewhere to put things. And other people. Her eyes darkened. And people they didn't want to see anymore. A chill slid down my spine. What happened to those extra rooms? I asked. Officially, she said. They never existed. Renovations covered them. Floor plans were redrawn. The current landlord says the building is fully compliant. And on paper, it is. Unofficially? I pressed. She looked down the corridor toward my door. Unofficially, space doesn't stop existing because someone changed a drawing, she said. If you carve out a shape inside a solid block, and then you cover the entrance, the shape is still there. She met my eyes. This building remembers every person who was ever tucked into those shapes, she said. Every argument where someone shouted, if you don't like it, sleep in the hallway. Every old person moved into temporary storage so the family could use their room for the new baby. Every runaway who was given just a corner, just for a while, and then never asked to leave. Her voice dropped. And every one of them had to walk past us to get there, she said. Through our rooms. Through our walls. Through our dreams. That's what happens when your floor plan is a lie. She shuffled away before I could think of what to say. That night, I slept at an internet cafe. I told myself it was because my Wi-Fi wasn't set up yet. The relief I felt lying in a narrow cubicle, separated from strangers by thin partitions and the hum of 15 computers, should have embarrassed me. It didn't. When I came back the next morning to shower and change, my apartment felt wrong. Not in a someone has been here way. In a this is not exactly the same space way. It's hard to explain. The bathroom door opened on the wrong side. The light switch in the kitchen was an inch lower. The corridor felt like it bent slightly more than before. I thought I was imagining it until I walked from the entrance to the main room and my steps didn't match the squeaks I'd memorized. It was like someone had picked up the hallway and set it down again at a different angle. I left for work shaking. At lunch, I pulled up my rental contract to check the emergency contact number. At the bottom of the PDF, in the tiny scanned print of the original building plans, I noticed something I hadn't before. A note. In handwriting. Next to 303. Layout under modification. Variable according to tenant adaptation. The note had been crossed out. Underneath, in ballpoint pen, someone had written, "Too much." I closed the file. That evening, when I got home, my key turned in the lock like always. The door opened like always. The shoes I'd left in the entrance were where I'd left them. But beyond them, the corridor felt expectant. I set my bag down, took a breath, and did something I hadn't done until then. I tried to map the apartment in my head. Not how it looked, how it felt. How many steps from door to bathroom? How many from bathroom to kitchen? How many from kitchen to main room? How many from main room back to door? The numbers didn't match. No matter what order I walked them in, one set of steps was always more or less than it should be. Something extra. Something missing. Like walking in a loop where a straight line should be. Okay, I said aloud. You win. You're weird. I get it. The air hummed. I had the sudden, irrational impression that the apartment was relieved I'd noticed. As if pretending it was normal had been putting strain on it. On us. I went to the kitchen cabinet, pulled out the rolled-up floor plans, and spread them on the floor again. The extra little room next to 303 was darker now. Not physically. In my perception. As if someone had filled it with shadow. I touched it with one finger. The paper was smooth. But my fingertip tingled, as if it had gone numb. On impulse, I picked up a pen. Over the tiny, unlabeled square, I wrote. Not for occupancy. The air in the kitchen shifted. A door creaked somewhere deep in the building. The shadow in the drawing room seemed to thin, just a fraction. That night, the footsteps in my hallway stopped at the bend and turned back. For the first time in weeks, they didn't reach my bedroom door. I started experimenting. Small things. On the plan, I drew a cross over one of the dotted night-only shared zones. The next night, the sound of people passing through my room at 3 a.m. moved one floor up. I heard it faintly through the ceiling instead. I labeled an extra room next to 301 storage luggage only. A few days later, I heard Tamura talking outside my door, astonished, about how her grandson's suitcases finally fit in the closet where they'd never fit before. Feels bigger, somehow, she said. Like someone moved the wall. Whenever I wrote anything selfish, no sound after 10 p.m. over a shared zone, the building pushed back. The walls creaked. The footsteps grew angry. Once, the lights went out in just my unit. I apologized out loud. I erased the line. The next night was quiet again. It was like negotiating with a wild animal. Or a crowd. Slowly, I realized the weird layout wasn't a static mistake. It was a system. A breathing one. A way to allocate limited space to too many people, shifting the burden according to who could bear it. Families had used it. Stuffed their problems into spare corners. Hidden their elderly, their sick, their unwanted. The building had absorbed all of that. The shame. The resentment. The gratitude. Now, with fewer people living in each unit, it had more room to move. And it wanted instructions. Or permission. I wasn't an architect. I was just a tired office worker. But I was the one who'd found the plans. The one who'd written first. So the building listened to me. A little. Enough. One Sunday afternoon, as I was cleaning, there was a knock at my door. It was light. Polite. I opened it cautiously. A young man stood there, maybe late 20s, in a worn jacket, holding a cardboard box. Sorry, he said. I used to live here. In 303. His eyes darted past me into the apartment, as if checking whether it was the same place. It's changed a bit, he said. I didn't invite him in. I stepped into the hallway instead, keeping the door mostly shut behind me, as Tamura had warned. You used to live here? I asked. When? Before the last guy, he said. I left some things. The landlord said the new tenant might have found them. He nodded at the box. I brought my own, just in case, he added, as if that made sense. What kind of things? I asked. He shrugged, avoiding my eyes. Just junk, he said. Old notebooks. Plans. Plans? I repeated. Building plans, he said. I was studying architecture. This building is interesting. A faint, strange pride colored his tone. I drew ideas, he said. Ways to optimize. The landlord's father had some good instincts. I just updated them. Tried to make the space more efficient. A chill crept up my spine. Are you the one who drew the extra rooms? I asked. He blinked. Then smiled, small and crooked. You found them, huh, he said. Most people don't. Or they pretend they don't. He looked down the corridor toward the stairs. After a while, it was like the building started suggesting things. He went on. You know? You could move this wall here, put a bed here, hide a door there. People needed space. The landlord liked my ideas at first. Then he said I went too far. He laughed, a short, brittle sound. Said the floor plan was starting to look like a trap, he said. Like once you went in, you'd never find your way out again. Were you the last tenant? I asked. Before me? He scratched his cheek. Depends who you ask, he said. On paper, maybe. In reality. He trailed off. An uncomfortable pressure built behind my eyes. I realized, suddenly, what felt off about him. There was no sound from his presence. No rustle of fabric. No little shoe squeaks on the floor. His outline against the corridor seemed slightly soft. Like a reflection on glass. I didn't step back. The corridor around us felt very narrow. Why did you leave? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. He looked at my door. Did you hear footsteps at night? He asked. Yes, I said. Did you dream of walking corridors that never ended? He asked. Yes, I said. He gave that crooked smile again. I thought I could live with it, he said. If it meant having my own place, close to the station, cheap. I told myself I was lucky. That people before me had had it worse. He swallowed. But the building kept asking, he said. For more little adjustments. More little sacrifices. Shift this corner a bit, let this stranger pass through your room on their way somewhere else. Don't complain when someone sleeps in your closet for a night. It never asked in words. Just, with pressure. With misaligned doors. And you agreed, I said softly. Mostly, he said. Until I realized I wasn't sure which room was mine anymore. Until I found myself spending nights in spaces that didn't exist on paper. Until I woke up one morning and my key didn't fit my door. Not because the lock changed. Because the door wasn't my door. He met my gaze. I came to get my plans, he said. But the landlord said the new tenant needed them more. That if anyone could negotiate with this place, it might be the next person. Why? I asked. He smiled sadly. Because they'd be desperate enough to rent it, he said. Like us. He shifted the box in his arms. I just came to say, he said, you can write your way out. Or you can write yourself further in. Be careful which lines you draw. He took a step back. Also, he added, almost as an afterthought, don't ever open a door you don't remember closing. Then he turned and walked down the corridor. I listened. No footsteps. No creak of the stairs. Just the building, humming softly, as if satisfied with the conversation. I went back inside and locked my door. Then, without thinking too hard about it, I took a thick black marker, spread the floor plans out, and drew a heavy line around my unit. Around just my unit. Not the extra square. Not the shared zones. Just the official rectangle. In the margin, I wrote. Everything outside this line belongs to someone else. I hesitated. Then added. But this part is mine. The pen tip shook, but the ink dried solid. The apartment seemed to exhale. The corridor felt shorter. The corners, less sharp. That night, the footsteps still came. But they stayed on the other side of the walls. Passing through, like people using a public road. Not barging in. Not climbing over my bed. Just going somewhere else. Somewhere the building still had room for them. It's been 6 months. The rent is still too cheap. The hallway is still too long in the day and a little too short at night. Sometimes, when I'm half asleep, I hear a door creak somewhere deep in the building that I know doesn't belong to any of the units on the official plan. Sometimes, I feel someone standing outside my bedroom door, politely not knocking. I don't invite them in. I don't redraw the lines. I leave the floor plans rolled up, but I don't hide them in the cabinet anymore. They sit on my desk, where I can see them. Where the building can see that I see them. On the worst nights, when the pressure of too many unseen lives makes the air hot and thin, I whisper. I'm sorry. I know they put you all in here. I know the layout is wrong. But I can't fix the whole thing. I can only make sure I don't add more to it. The walls creak. Sometimes, very faintly, I hear someone laugh. Not mockingly. Almost grateful. Tamora from 302 stopped me in the corridor last week. You sleep better these days, she said. How can you tell? I asked, embarrassed. She tapped the wall lightly. The building is quieter, she said. It likes you. Don't push your luck. I promised I wouldn't. Still, sometimes, when I'm looking at rental sites out of habit, I see phrases like interesting floor plan and unique layout and my fingers twitch. I wonder how many other buildings were drawn by people like the landlord's father. By students with ideas. By tenants who accepted too much. How many extra rooms float between our walls, declared to no one, connecting spaces that shouldn't touch. If you move into a place like that someday, a cheap, too close to the station miracle with a corridor that feels a little too long, pay attention to what was built where. Count your steps. Listen behind the walls. And if you ever find the original floor plans, and you see a little unlabeled room snuggled up against your own, know this. Someone probably lived there. Someone probably still does. They'll be polite at first. They'll just walk past your door on their way to somewhere else. You can let them. Or you can draw a line. Either way, once you live in a house that doesn't fit on paper, it's hard to ever see normal layouts the same way again. Because you'll know how easy it is to hide whole lives in the bends of a hallway. And how hard it is to convince them to leave once you've moved in on top of them.